is just fantastic.
Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. Today we are going to be taking a look at the recent updates concerning the legal case involving Nick Rekieta. There are, of course, as is well known, other parties, yes, but I do believe that the charges have been dropped against everyone else, not Nick though. Nick has, up until present, been acting with a level of swagger unbecoming of somebody whose live streams and flagrant disregard for the legal system, whilst claiming the truth will come out when not providing any truth, and then this confirms it, his arrogance is misplaced. But much like anyone else in this position, he can't shelve his ego long enough to actually allow the truth to see the light of day. The problems he faced we have covered on this channel many times, and of course I will link a video, 2, 3, maybe more, down below. On the 24th of January 2025, on Twitter, Kiwi Farms had posted a thread on their site of the state versus Nick Rekieta, and an image of what has been, announced. The verdict itself, or the sentence of which we don't have yet. Now, I'm not going to show you the image and just cut to the end. There is more information we should consider looking at. Because another person had tweeted out 4 images. Pretty Anti-Pod had tweeted out Nick Rekieta has pled guilty to 3rd-degree felony drug possession, which included other charges being dropped against him, and charges against Kayla and April being dismissed. The 4 images are separate pages confirming this, and I thought we'd go through that because I think it right to have a look at how an entering of guilty plea looks. To the above named court, I, Nicholas Robert Rekieta, defendant in the above entitled action, do respectfully represent and state as follows. Well, this is exciting, isn't it? My full name is Nicholas Robert Rekieta. I am 43 years old. My date of birth is bleh. The last grade I went through in school is law school graduate. 2. If filed in my case, I have received, read and discussed a copy of the indictment complaint. 3. I understand the charges against me in this case. 4. Specifically, I understand that I have been charged with the crimes of drugs in the 2nd degree in violation of Minnesota statute, those possession of ammunition or firearm in violation of Minnesota statute of and all of that, and child endangerment in violation of Minnesota statute, all of that, committed on or about May 23rd, 2024 in Minnesota. We did cover that extensively here. I had back then been a little bit reluctant at first to cover it because I genuinely wanted to believe he hadn't fallen this far. But it turns out he put on a Crisp Chow medallion, and we all know how that curse works. I love that I ignored the part where the specifically was 4, probably because the 1, 2, 3 and 5 all on the same line if you look down. 5. I am represented by an attorney whose name is that, and A. I feel I have had sufficient time to discuss my case with my attorney, and the internet. B. I am satisfied that my attorney is fully informed as to the facts of this case. So is the internet. C. My attorney has discussed possible defences to the crime that I might have. So is the internet. D. I am satisfied that my attorney has represented my interests and has fully advised me. Didn't you dunk on some legal officials in this? I was half surprised you didn't seek to represent yourself. I know conflict of interest is a thing, but I genuinely believed you would have done it, and then live streamed doing it whilst telling everyone nothing. Because you were so reluctant to get an ankle monitor, reluctant to be tested, reluctant to do anything right, I genuinely thought your pride would take over and you'd just do it all yourself, and then flounder. 6. I have, or I have never been, a patient in a mental hospital. You ticked I have never, but you're a Rumble streamer, surely that means you are in a mental hospital. If anyone didn't appreciate that sarcasm, I do stream there, so yes, I'm saying it because I know it. 7. I have not talked to or been treated by a psychiatrist or other person for a nervous or mental condition. What the hell is the ticking and not ticking I'm seeing here? This does not help me in the slightest. There's a little bit of writing above it, but sadly the image is too grainy for me to be able to tell conclusively what it says. And I've zoomed this image in as far as I can. 8. I have not been ill recently with I have not been ill recently being ticked. That's probably because you passed a drug test. 9. I have, and I have not recently been taking pills or other medicines. I have being accepted here. 10. I do not being the one ticked here, make the claim that I was so drunk or so under the influence of drugs or medicines that I did not know what I was doing at the time of the crime. You don't have to make the claim. Your live stream's a testament, sadly. 11. I do not being the one ticked, make the claim that I was acting in self-defense or merely protecting myself or others at the time of the crime. Based on your use of legal loopholes, the constant having to appeal for things to be thrown out, refusal to get drug tested, you could argue self-defense if you want to be pedantic. Don't worry, I'm not. 12. I do not being ticked, make the claim that the fact I've been held in jail since my arrest and could not post bail caused me to decide to plead guilty in order to get the thing over with rather than waiting for my turn at trial. Well, you say do not make the claim, but you certainly weren't looking for the truth to come out. We know this, verifiably so. A deal has been struck to protect others, which is why you're taking this. No offense intended to anyone involved, but for somebody who on their live streams, and I remember seeing the clips of it, claimed that they would prove their innocence. It's remarkable when a deal came up, how quick you were willing to take it, or were willing to strike it, to protect yourself. 13 is a bit of a long one here, so let's see if we can work it out. I was, instead of I was not, I was represented by an attorney when I had a probable cause hearing. I have not had a probable cause hearing. Wait, what does that mean? There are two X's. I know that I can now move, I'm going to go to A and B, move that the complaint against me be dismissed for lack of probable cause. You had that thrown out, you tried to have that thrown out, and the judge threw that out. And then you tried to get it done on the warrant because of how the information was obtained. It's cute, isn't it? And know that if I do not make such a motion and go ahead with entering my plea of guilty, I will waive all right to successfully object to the absence of a probable cause hearing. B. I also know that I waive all right to successfully object to any errors in the probable cause hearing when I enter my plea of guilty. Well, he has no sodding choice, and this is actually quite a favourable outcome so far. I can't help but notice that 14 saw what 13 did and decided to hold my beer thing. Yeah. My attorney has told me, and I understand, A. that the prosecutor for the case against me has physical evidence obtained as a result of searching for and seizing the evidence in the form of statements, oral or written, evidence discovered as a result of my statements or as a result of the evidence seized in a search, identification evidence from a lineup or photographic identification, evidence the prosecution believes indicates that I committed one or more of those crimes. So your live streams didn't do you any favours, did they? No. Do you regret ever putting on that Christian medallion? I'm curious. B. That I have a right to a pre-trial hearing before a judge to determine whether or not the evidence the prosecution has could be used against me if I went to trial in this case. C. That if I requested such a pre-trial hearing, I could testify at the hearing if I wanted to, but my testimony could not be used as substantive evidence against me if I went to trial in this case. D. That I do not now request such a pre-trial hearing, that I specifically do now waive my right to have a pre-trial hearing. E. That whether or not I have had such a hearing, I will not be able to object tomorrow or any other time to the evidence that the prosecutor has. This seems quite, standard when it comes to a guilty plea. You have to agree. You can't now say, oh no, good backsies, we're going to have that in writing, so you don't try and pull a fast one. I fully support this kind of language being used, right? I'm not overly fond of Nick Rekieta's guilty plea, because I really did want to see what he had, whether he had the balls to actually go to trial, but I guess now we know for certain he doesn't actually possess any testicles. I would say imagine my shock, but I don't think anyone's surprised at this point. 15. I have been told by my attorney, and I understand, A. that if I wish to plead not guilty, I am entitled to a trial by a jury on the issue of guilt, and all jurors would have to agree I was guilty before the jury could find me guilty. B. That if I plead guilty, I will not have a trial by either a jury or by a judge without a jury. C. That with knowledge of my right to a trial on the issue of guilt, I now waive my right to a trial. Page 3. 16. I have been told by my attorney, and I understand that if I wish to plead not guilty and have a trial by jury or a trial by a judge, I would be presumed innocent until my guilt is proven beyond a reasonable doubt. Well, unanimous decision is beyond reasonable doubt at that point, isn't it? Although I'm sure you would have found a way, if you were found guilty of anything, to try and have the jurors thrown out. 17. I have been told by my attorney and understand, A. that if I wish to plead not guilty and have a trial, the prosecutor would be required to have the witnesses testify against me in open court in my presence, and that I would have the right, through my attorney, to question these witnesses. B. that with knowledge of my right to have a prosecution's witness testify in open court in my presence and questioned by my attorney, I now waive this right. I'll be honest, I was looking forward to the idea of you trying to get some of those live streamers who have dunked on you onto your cute little trial. I guess I was looking forward to all the wrong things. I'm going to miss out on all the fun we could have had, Nick. You've really let us down here. But where was I? Let's go to 19 because that gets a bit long. I have been told by my attorney and I understand. A. That a person who has prior convictions or a prior conviction can be given a longer sentence. B. The maximum penalty the court can impose for this crime is imprisonment for 25 years. He won't get that. That if a minimum sentence is required by statute, the court may impose a sentence of imprisonment not less than not applicable months for this crime. Okay. C. That for felony driving while impaired offences and most sex offences, a mandatory period of a conditional release will follow any executed prison sentence that is imposed, with a period of conditional release being not applicable years. D. That a person who participates in a crime by intentionally aiding, advising, counselling and conspiring with another person or persons to commit a crime is just as guilty of that crime as the person or persons who are present and participating in the crime. Well, since the other two people have been removed from it, this part seems a bit redundant. E. That my present probation or parole could be revoked because of the plea of guilty to the crime. And F. That the prosecutor is seeking an aggravated sentence of not applicable. You'll notice in 20 there's some handwriting here, because this is where we find out about Rekieta having charges dismissed, along with April Imholt. Is that it? Yes. Cute handwriting. I love it when official writing gets put on top of official writing. We should, of course, for this part, read it, because this is the part that was shared by Kiwi Farms as well. I've been told by my attorney and understand, A. That my attorney discussed this case with one of the prosecuting attorneys, and that my attorney and the prosecuting attorney agreed that if I entered a plea of guilty, the prosecutor will do the following. Plead guilty to amended charge of drug possession in the 3rd degree, statutory stay of adjudication pursuant to Minnesota statute, and then that, remaining terms of the sentence at court's discretion, state drops all other charges, along with dismissing charges against Rekieta and April Imholt. B. If the court does not approve this agreement, I have an absolute right to then withdraw my plea of guilty and have a trial, and any testimony that I have given concerning the guilty plea could not be used against me unless I am charged with the crime of perjury based on this testimony. I still want to see a trial. I feel like you've dragged it out long enough. You should at least have the guts to go balls deep. The final page is the more interesting one to me, personally. The first one being about him accepting that no one's making promises to him to obtain that guilty plea. That's 21. 22 is that if he withdraws the plea, he faces the original charges and stands trial. 22 basically points out how futile it would be for him to now do any form of appeal if he enters a guilty plea. 24 is that a judge will not accept a plea of guilty if he claims to be innocent, which he's been doing the entire sodding time up until this point, hasn't he? With 25 saying he now makes no claim that he is innocent. The rest are redundant, but he has signed this on the 24th of January 2025, and I keenly await the sentence for Nick Rekieta on this. The fact he's finally admitted guilt to the one charge that's the softest of the lot has led to many people believing that at best he'll get a sentence of probation and 6 months, instead of trouble kind of nonsense, for a certain period of time. This comes from a guy who said for the longest that the government was trying to frame him. That is what Nick Rekieta said. To end it like this feels like a bit of a bum note, really, because it then tells us he had to strike a deal, and the best one he can get was this, which is a surprisingly good deal for him, I will concede. But since everything else got thrown out in the past, him trying to get the case dismissed because of the search warrant, yes, I remember, it's a bit, At the same time, halls of injustice in the future, I guess?